Okay, so this is the lesson that I'm going to tackle for this meeting, which is drawing of patterns and themes. So basically, in this lesson, we will discuss how we're going to write your results discussion, how we're going to analyze the data that you have gathered, and what can you do in order to make sense of those data that you have gathered, right? So in drawing of patterns and themes, one of the most important thing that you need to take in this step is analyzing qualitative data, meaning you're going to analyze the responses or the answers of your research participants. So in qualitative data analysis, it involves identification, examination, and interpretation of patterns and themes in textual data and determines how these patterns and themes help answer the research questions at hand. So, which means that in analyzing qualitative data, you need to scrutinize and evaluate the textual data in order to determine the ideas or notions implied sa katong responses or answers sa inyong respondents or participants. So you need to interpret the underlying notions that can be noticed sa data. And you need to determine if there are repetitions of the ideas implied in the data since you're going to analyze or evaluate if there are themes that you can see doon sa data. So you need to see if there are similarities and or differences of the various data that you have collected. And your qualitative data should answer your research question since your whole results and discussion will revolve on your statement of the problem. Then the National Science Foundation describes qualitative analysis as unguided by universal rules, as a fluid process that is greatly dependent on the evaluator and to the context of the study, and adaptable to progressing studies and data. So in qualitative research, it's really different from quantitative. So in qualitative research, you can write anything in your paper as long as the construction and discussion makes sense to the objective of your study. So since qualitative research is a textual analysis, it's very important to back up your analysis with theories or related literature that are very important in order to suffice or support your analysis or your claims. So unlike with quantitative study, you're only bound to the variables or concepts of your study since you will deal with numbers or statistics. But in qualitative, it's different. So you can go outside of your theories if you observe something peculiar in your data or something new. Meaning, kahit pa may na-analyze ka or may nakita ka sa data ninyo that are not categorized doon sa theory base ninyo, hindi siya pwede makategorize sa theory base ninyo, it's totally fine as long as you have adequate support for your claims. Unlike sa quantitative kasi, mag-base lang mo dito sa number, sa results sa study, pag-run sa data gamit ang mga statistical software. So but in qualitative data research, it's different. So pwede ka mag-deviate. That's why it's called as unguided by universal rules as long as your analysis can make sense and meron kang um, support. Tapos yung analysis mo is rational siya, reasonable. Then in data analysis process, first is getting to know the data. You need to assess the quality of the data before the analysis. So it means that you need to make sure that the data that you have collected can answer the research questions or yung statement of the problem ninyo. So, or kung ano yung inquiries ninyo sa research ninyo. So, you need to set the standard or qualifying criteria that should validate your corpora. Next is focusing the analysis. First, focus by question or topic, time period or event, then focus by case, individual, or by group. So you need to know what and how are you going to analyze your data. So which means that you need to have a framework because that's your basis on how you're going to analyze your data. So that's why in qualitative research, it's very important that you have the research tool. So going back to your the initial part of your paper dun sa methods, it's very important yung theory-based at saka research tool because that's your basis for your analysis. So yun yung gagamitin ninyo pag mag-analyze na kayo sa corpora or yung responses ng participants ninyo. Then you need to identify the specific group of people that can give you the data that you needed for the research. So, mag-set kayo ng qualifying criteria doon sa participants ninyo in order to get the genuine data that you needed for your study. The next is coding. See, coding, you need to categorize the data. We have predefined codes and emergent codes. So when coding your research data, it should be reflected doon sa appendices ninyo. So you need to label your data according to your analysis. Okay? Let me show you an example. College thesis. Ito. Okay, so this is the first corpus of my study way back in my college days. So this is a conversation, a radio conversation sa mga disc jockey sa sige na siyang radio program Dix AB Tambayan 1296. So as what you can see, may naka-highlight na words kasi yung study ko is about the pragmatic functions of Cebuano kuan in conversations. So I need to analyze what's the meaning of kuan. For example, kini ay by department ay abi na kog kanang kuan basig nakalimot. So I need to analyze unsay meaning ana nga kuan sa kana nga context. So muna akong study. So as what you can see, may naka-highlight color yung kuan na word. So meron siyang different colors. So you can see may blue, may olive green siya. So nandito sa baba ang iyahang legend. So for example, if color blue ang highlight, so mo ni siya ang pragmatic functions niya. Pause filler. So kapag olive green, this is the pragmatic function, placeholder. So this is one of the examples on how you're going to code your data. Depende na siya sa inyong study because akong study is conversation siya tapos I'm going to analyze the meaning of a particular word sa conversations, how these words being used in the context. So, inani akong pagka-code. And then, so na siya legend, depende sa color kung iyang kung siyang function. And then, I also need to provide summary. So, corpus 1 naman siya ganiha. So, going to provide a table, a summary sa kuang pragmatic functions present on that corpus 1. So, these are the ways saan siya pag-code sa inyong data. Suppose filler, merong frequency niya or 47, meaning um, post filler, akuan as post filler was used 47 times. So there are total 89 utterances of Cebuano Kuan, but among these utterances of Cebuano Kuan, 47 of those are post filler, 17 placeholder, 13 discourse marker, and so on and so forth. So this is just one of the ways on how to code your data. Okay. Then entering and organizing the data. A file for each interview, observation, site, or focus group should be created. The data should be organized by question, time intervals, or topic. So meaning you need to summarize the data according to your label. So the same thing as what I have shown to you earlier. So kailangan naka-organize, then naka-tabulate yung data ninyo. Then next is cleaning the data. Say cleaning the data, you need to check the data for errors, spot checking, eyeballing, logic data. So you need to compare the raw data to your encoded data. If nag-correlate ba siya. Then check if you overlook something. So in the writing process pa, you need to proofread your data. Then you need to make sure that the ideas implied in the answers make sense to the questions being referred by the answers. Kailangan ang answer sa respondents or participants correlate siya dito sa questions. Then, if you are recording your interview, kailangan og transcription. So meaning you need to transcribe. So you need to repeatedly listen to the recordings to check if you missed something in your transcription. So example dito sa ako ang thesis, tong appendix na akong ipakita kaganiha, that's a recording, then it's a long process kasi 1 minute lang na um, 1 minute lang na duration sa recording, it takes a lot of minutes. Kaya dugay jud siya. That's why I decided that you will utilize interview, written interview na lang. So no need to transcribe na sa inyong part. Then identifying meaningful patterns and themes. So you can mag-content analysis and thematic analysis. So analyze what's in the data. So what you have noticed, what you have observed, meaning what's your evaluation to your data using your theoretical framework or theory base or yung research tool ninyo. Then you need to see if there are similarities of the ideas that you have analyzed in various corpora. Then interpreting the data. So the results are synthesized into a coherent whole, meaning and significance are attached to the analysis of data. Themes and patterns serve to explain the findings, and the implications are highlighted, meaning you need to provide deductions or conclusions to the interpretations from general implications that you have analyzed your data, meaning from general to specific. And you also need to provide samples or excerpts that you have provided in your results and discussion. So from your corpora, you select excerpts that you may present sa results and discussion. The ones that you will select are those that can make sense sa inyong analysis. Then explain the samples or the excerpts that you have provided in your results and discussion. So then guidelines for the analysis process. First is you need to answer these questions. What patterns or common themes emerge around specific items in the data? How do these patterns help shed light on the broader study question. So meaning the ideas and notions that you have observed. You need to indicate that in your results and discussion. Okay. Your analysis should be able to answer your research question or your statement of the problem because that's the problem that you need to deal with in your research, in yung statement of the problem. So dira mag-revolve in yung results and discussion. Then, is there any deviation from these patterns? If there is, what factors could explain these atypical responses? So meaning, you need to analyze if there's something in your data deviated from your research tool. As what I have mentioned earlier, in qualitative research, unguided siya. So you can do anything you want, you can explain anything you want as long as you have the basis, you have the strong support for your analysis. You may compare the results of your study to other similar studies if they have the same or different results. So, and you need to explain the possible reason why the results are similar or different. Then what interesting stories emerge from the data? How can these stories help shed light on the broader study question? So meaning, what can you conclude on your analysis? Is it interesting? Is it new? Does it contribute to the body of knowledge? So meaning, you need to make sense out of the analysis that you provided in your study. Then next, do any of the patterns or common themes suggest that additional data needs to be collected? Do any of the questions need to be revised? So you need to consider if is there any need to consider gathering another data from different contexts to see if you can generate different results. So pag di ka satisfied sa result ng study mo, you can further investigate by gathering further data or considering other context naman sa data ninyo to see kung may different doon sa results. Okay, do the patterns support the findings of other corresponding qualitative analysis that have been conducted? So, you need to see or check if your study has similar results with other studies. Then, format of data analysis, results, and discussion. Yung major elements, the presentation of the data, your analysis, interpretation, and discussion. Sa presentation of data, para sa study ninyo, you need to first provide a table, a summary of your research corpora, and then your analysis. You can provide excerpts doon sa responses ninyo, need to interpret, then you elaborate through discussion. So I'm going to show you. Mm. This is an example of a research last school year. Mm. Okay, the results and discussion. So, as what I have mentioned earlier, yung results and discussion ninyo should answer your statement of the problem. So, for this study, tawag nito, yung statement of the problem nila, to, what are the strategies of software developers in creating software design? Meaning, yung results and discussion, dapat ma-answer ni kining nga question. What are the strategies of software developers in creating software design? So, dirita. So this section presents the result and discussion of study. So meaning, software design strategies man ginapangita. So Moni, Table 2 presents the software design strategies employed by the software developers on creating software applications. So what you can see dun sa table, since software design strategies siya, so Moni siya. Here are the strategies in creating software design. So itong F, meaning its frequency. So meaning how many software developers yung gumagamit ng social reciprocity, user investment, gamification, infinite scrolling, variable rewards, at saka illusion of choice. Since 5 man kabuok ang participants, so out of 5 ka software developers ang nagagamit og kini nga design, social reciprocity. And then, yung percentage niya, kining percentage, kwaon siya among the kining software design. So, I'm going to discuss next meeting kung unsaon ni pagkuha ang although I know you know how to get the percentage pero yung specific na factor dito sa study i-check sana ako usab ha. Then aside sa frequency and percentage itong sample. So halimbawa key informant 3 meaning si key informant 3 siya inyong participant 3 and here's his or her answer sa question regarding social reciprocity. Yes, because we wanted users to be able to connect with other users, it was a needed feature. So kailangan i-provide ninyo, mag-provide mo excerpt from the responses sa inyong participants. One excerpt or sample. And then, after presenting the table, so discussion na mo. Okay, first is, so based on our results in table 2, one of the most utilized psychology-based software design strategies is social reciprocity, which is used by 5 among the 6 din ikabok ilang participants. Software developers or 83.83% of the key informants. So gikuha din ni ilang naka-remember nako ang kining percentage pagkuha is number of total participants, i-divide siya sa kung pila ka buo ka participants ang nag-answer or yes sa social reciprocity. So meaning, 5 divided by 6 times 0.100 ang pagkuha aning percentage. Check na ko ha. 5 divided by 6 times. Wait lang. Ani. Wait lang ha. Calculator. Klaro ang calculator. Naka-remember na ko gyud sa to nila pagkuha. Halimbawa, 6 man to ang total kini siya nga sample, kini siya nga study, 6 man ang total participants nila. Tapos, among the 6 participants, 5 of them answered social reciprocity. So meaning 5 divided by 6 times 100. Ana lang. So 83.33. Ana lang pagkuha sa percentage. Halikta. So in your discussion, sa results and discussion, you need to discuss every indicator. Kaya halimbawa, social reciprocity, explainin ninyo. User investment, explain. Gamification, explain. Infinite scrolling, explain. Variable rewards, explain. Illusion of choice, explain. So, kailangan ang arrangement sa table, sa sa indicator ninyo, kung kinsa ang pinakataas. So, kini nga study, pinakataas man ang social reciprocity user investment, meaning sila ang nasa una. The next, pinakataas ang gamification o infinite scrolling. Sila ang second. So, ana ang arrangement nandun sa pinakagamay. Ana ang arrangement ha. So, pag-discuss, unahon ninyo kung unsa tong first na nakabutang sa yung table. So, since una ang social reciprocity sa kini na example, una siya ninyo i-discuss. Based on the results in Table 2, one of the most utilized psychology-based software design strategies is social reciprocity, which is used by 5 among the 6 software developers, or 83.83% of the key informants. Okay, the software developers utilize social reciprocity as a strategy because they want the users to connect and interact with other users, especially those who are in other countries, just like in excerpt number 1. So, explaining nyo based diri sa inyong ipakita nga excerpt. Kaya halimbawa, diri sa excerpt number 1, yes, because we wanted users to be able to connect with the users. It was a needed feature. We're in Key Informant 3, stated that they wanted the users to build connections with the users. Sa giingon sa Key Informant 3, kini mo din siya. Then, in excerpt number 2, wherein Key Informant 2 stated that it would be easy for the users to communicate with the other users even if they are far from each other. So, asa si excerpt number 2, ara. Yes, because it's easier for them to interact or make transaction with others even if they are apart, especially users interacting from one country to another country. Tapos, asa pa. And in excerpt number 3, wherein Key Informant 5 stated that it would be good that the players in a game application can communicate with each other. So, asa si excerpt number 3, ara. Yes, it was a mobile app for a board game, and we wanted the users to be able to talk to their opponent during the game. So, unsa inyong ma-analyze regarding sa kini na mga responses sa inyong participants? Isulat lang ninyo. And then in excerpt number 1, Key Informant 3 also emphasized that social reciprocity is a necessary feature since building a linkage among the users is important in designing software. So it's up to you kung sa inyo ang ma-analyze ha. Then, you may explain all of the answers sa inyong participants since 5 lang naman ang participants ninyo. And then, there is sa last paragraph on explaining the first indicator, for example, this one, itong social reciprocity, last paragraph for social reciprocity, provide na mo evidence or support sa gikan sa inyong theoretical framework, theory-based, or sa inyong related literature. It is evident that the software developers utilize reciprocity as a design strategy in order for the users to connect, communicate, and interact with the other users of the software depending on their purpose. This analysis can be supported by Neyman that social reciprocity refers to a process of mutual exchange that is social in nature. It is also perceptible in the result that the software developers acknowledge that communication among the users of a software is a form of social obligation, since building a community within the application can motivate social interaction among the users. This can be substantiated by Neyman that social reciprocity is developing property in many social apps such as Instagram and Twitter, which have a social etiquette that demands following back. Somebody who has followed you, or the likes and favorite features in Facebook, which can instill a sense of obligation in users to do the same back. So ani siya? So mag-provide mo og supporting evidence sa inyuhang analysis through your theory-based or theoretical framework. So after this one, second indicator na pod. So next sa social reciprocity, kay ang user investment. So explain na po din yung user investment. The same pattern aning pag-explain sa social reciprocity. The other most utilized psychology-based software design strategy is user investment, which is used by 5 among the 6 software developers, or 83.33% of the key informants. So the same pattern, you explain, discuss sa imuhang na analyze sa inyuhang corpora. Then you need to include the excerpts sa pag-explain. And then provide og evidence, supporting evidence or theory sa iyong study. And then on the last part, the very last paragraph sa inyong study is the sa results and discussion. It's like the deductions, overall generalizations of your study. Okay, for example, kini, the study also revealed that the software developers, kini ay, based on the findings, it is clear that the, wait lang, conclusion, sorry, conclusion man na ini. Okay, from the information gathered from the key informants, software developers integrate features that enable users to interact with other users through the software. The key informants integrate this strategy for in-game communications, financial transactions, and information exchange. So, what can you deduce dito sa study ninyo? Ana, it's the general conclusion sa inyong study. Then the conclusion, next ano na to na i-discuss. Next meeting. So are we clear about the results and discussion? Do you have questions, clarifications? By the way, kini siya nga sample ha, available na siya sa Schoology. Upload na ako na siya, dugay na. You just check it out. Tanaw ninyo kung yun sa unsay pattern nila pag-discuss. Okay, do you have questions, clarifications?
Wala na, sir.
Okay na ta. Okay, anyway, Janeline, i-update lang ta ka ha. I-chat na ko siya balik ato akong kaila na digital marketer. Anyway, sa inyo
Opo,
nga na
sir.
nakagather na mo, kompleto na og data, pag-start na mo og analyze sa inyong inyong corpora para makasulat na mo sa inyong results and discussion. Okay, do you have more concerns or questions? If none, I think that's a wrap. That's the end of our discussion. Okay, I'm going to end the na. Bye guys, thank you for joining the Zoom conference.